Hello everyone, welcome to this brand new podcast. It's called So What? The MGPES podcast. My name's Mistry and I am the host today. Now, this is a bit of an introduction to this episode. It's episode 1 and so this podcast is about anything really. So this is about our hobbies really. So I'm into motorsport and a lot of the things I'll be talking about will be motorsport related. When we get more of the MGPES team on, we'll be talking about all sorts of things from anime to motorsport to even, music, as this podcast was originally meant to be. So, today's episode, we are going to talk about Formula 1 2021. Now, in the Aero Grand Prix podcast, which is also produced by me and Darshal Lodia, we have made our predictions on our constructors, an episode which will release on Sunday, the 17th of January. So, let's get on with this episode. Now, let's talk about my 2021 predictions. Now, I made some predictions not long ago about this, and let me just say, they're a bit off point. So, when I made these predictions, let me make these clear. This was a week before the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend. Now, you've got to remember the fact that this was before we got the announcements made. So let's get started with this. So, if I just load up my information. So, let's start off with this podcast. Now, let's start off with my constructors' predictions. So, when I made this is before pre-season testing. I'll do one again, really. And what do I think is going to happen? So, let's talk about, we're going to do F1 today. Let's P10 in constructors. I'm going to say Haas will finish last. And the reason why I say that is not the car, but the driver lineup. They have a brilliant young driver in Mick Schumacher, amazing talent, and proved so in FIA European Formula 3 and FIA Formula 2 by winning titles in his second season of competing in those championships. And also they do have Nikita Mazepin, and obviously I do have my opinion on Nikita Mazepin, we all do, and obviously after the recent events, after what we have seen from him on social media, I don't have much to say about him, but I think Nikita Mazepin will be really inconsistent and won't finish many Grand Prix. I'm going to say he will not finish at least 10 Grand Prix, he will crash. And I think him and Mick Schumacher will have a love-hate relationship in a sense that they just don't like each other. So yeah, that's why I've gone for that. And I think Mick Schumacher will score points, but it will not be enough to prevent Haas from finishing last. Now, let's go on to my position 9. And I've gone for Williams, and I've gone for the fact that the drivers are consistent. They finished the races. Nicholas Latifi, he only retired from races, but because of retirements, mechanical issues. I'm thinking of Mugello, where I guarantee he would have been he was doing really well in that race, but he ended up getting caught out in that collision at the safety car restart. So he missed out. And George Russell, we know he's a really, really good, brilliant driver. And after what we saw in Sakir this year, where he stood in for Mercedes and got horribly lost out to the win, you've got to think about that as well. So I'm saying Williams a P9. Alfa Romeo, I'm going to say will be P8. Same as last year, Alfa Romeo have a better car than Williams and Haas, and they have a good driver lineup in Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen. So, and the drivers are really good. They scored a double points finish at Imola, and hopefully they can do that the same. Now, position 7, it might be controversial. I've gone for Alpine, mainly due to that I think political factors will get in the way. I think Fernando will literally insert his number 1 status in every possible way, which will cause many problems for Esteban Ocon. I think Fernando will do well in the driver's standings, but Esteban won't. And I do think political factors will be a key. So that's why I've gone for position 9. But I think the midfield battle this year will be even more tight than it was last year. P6, I've gone for my favourite team, Scuderia AlphaTauri Honda, which is their full name. Well, AlphaTauri for short. I've gone for the team, small Italian team from Faenza, the Red Bull owned team, mainly due to the fact they have a brilliant car and they have a really good lineup. Well, we know Pierre Gasly is a proven race winner and a brilliant driver, and he proved that with him 2020. And you've got to consider Yuki Tsunoda, a brilliant rookie. First time I heard of him was at the Pau Grand Prix, in which Billy Monger won that race. But Yuki Tsunoda, rookie season in Formula 2 last year, and he absolutely obliterated everyone, apart from Mick Schumacher and Callum Ilott. And AlphaTauri, I think, will be very, very consistent this year. I think they'll be involved in the battle a lot more than they will be. And I think Yuki Tsunoda, towards the latter stage of this year, 2021, like Kvyat, will be involved a lot more in points and maybe could get podium. Kvyat obviously got missed out on the podium at Imola. To this day, I think he should have got the podium, but Albon ruined it for him. So let's go on to position 5. I'm going for another Italian team. From Maranello, Scuderia Ferrari mission winner. Yes, I've gone for the team which last year finished P6 in constructors. I think they're still going to struggle, but with a new driver in Carlos Sainz Jr. replacing Sebastian Vettel, I think the lineup will work. Two young drivers in the main position. We've also got to consider they've obviously a new engine, but I don't think it's going to be enough, and I think the damage has already been done with Ferrari having a lot more wind tunnel advantage in the 2022 car. So I'm going for P5 Ferrari. I think they'll be in the midfield battle a lot more this year. It's going to be very, very tight. P4, I'm going to go for a new team. The team from Silverstone, formerly known as Jordan, Midland, Spiker, Force India, Racing Point, Force India, Racing Point, and now Aston Martin. Aston Martin, I believe, with the Mercedes power and Sebastian Vettel, will finish P4 in the constructors like they did last year. But I think with Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, they will be consistently scoring points. But maybe a race win. Let's see. For P3, I've gone for another team, the same team. Well, pretty much the same as last year. I've gone for McLaren, but I think they're going to be ahead. They have a brilliant chassis, and they're going to have the amazing Mercedes engine. McLaren and Mercedes back together again. A bit like, I don't know, an iconic couple. I can't name one at the moment, but they're back together, McLaren and Mercedes, with Daniel Ricciardo also in their lineup as well. So you've got two amazing jokers in Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. Now, my accent might be a bit dodgy, but Lando and Daniel are brilliant drivers. Lando obviously got made the Austrian Grand Prix amazing by getting his first podium in Formula 1, and to set aside in 2020 what McLaren had, and Daniel Ricciardo, he had two effing podiums. Obviously Cyril's not going to get that two anymore, but Daniel Ricciardo is at McLaren with a first time he's ever going to drive a Mercedes powered car. Now, P2 in constructors, I'm going to go for the new team, not a new team, but no longer part of Aston Martin, but Red Bull Racing. Red Bull Racing last year with Honda engines, as they are known as Honda. Well, they're going to be a lot more closer to Mercedes with a driver with Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen. But Perez in qualifying will be obviously slower than Verstappen, but his race pace will be a lot better than the race pace which was produced by Alexander Albon and Pierre Gasly respectively. And overall, I think it's going to be a brilliant lineup, and the first time since Daniel Ricciardo left Red Bull are going to have two really good drivers. And P1, I'm going to go for a team based in Brackley, Mercedes, AMG, Petronas, Formula 1 team. Yes, I'm going to say Mercedes win their 8th constructors in a row, but Mercedes I believe this year will be Mercedes' last year of proper domination before these new regulations. Mercedes stopped developing their car at the Belgian Grand Prix in 2020, so there's not much to say on that, apart from we know they've spent ages developing the car. Now let's move on to driver standard. Now, position 20 in the 2021 driver standard, I'm going to go for Nikita Mazepin. I don't think he's going to be good enough. I think he's going to be a crash person. He's going to be a torpedo. But there's not much to say about Nikita Mazepin, apart from that he is much disliked across the Formula 1 community after what he had posted on social media. # we say no to Mazepin. Okay, position 9. I'm going to say Nicholas Latifi. I think Latifi is a brilliant driver. He is a paid driver, but he was consistent, and had Russell not gone to Mercedes last year, he definitely would have finished ahead of George Russell in the standings. And I think he will score points this year. I think Latifi is a brilliant driver, so yeah, let's see what happens. Position 18, I'm going to go for Mick Schumacher. he will be ahead of his teammate. He will score points. There's not much to say. But this year will be his rookie season, and he still has a point to prove. 17th, I should say. I'm going to go for Antonio Giovinazzi. He's Italian, and he has the Italian trait of crashing. He will score points like his teammate Kimi Räikkönen, but it won't be enough. So that's why Giovinazzi is going 17th. We've seen what he's got. This year is the year he has to prove his worth in Formula 1. Callum Ilott is literally waiting in his wings to take that spot. And now P16, I'm going to go for the Iceman himself, my idol, Kimi Räikkönen. Wow. So, I've gone for Kimi because I think this year will be his last year in Formula 1. And yeah, I think he'll be ahead of his Antonio Giovinazzi, but this year will be his last, and I think his form will start to drop. P15, I'm going to go for a new rookie in Yuki Tsunoda. I think he has the pace, but I don't think it's enough at the moment. This year, it will be a learning curve. He's obviously going to have to learn. He's Japanese. He needs to learn with the Italian team how to communicate, etc. Might be a bit of an odd one, but he has talent, and there's no doubt. P14, I am going to go for George Russell. I think he'll score points for Williams this year, without a doubt. He'll be in Q3 with a Williams, not Mercedes. He will do something amazing. Maybe a podium. Maybe I'm too ambitious. But P13, I've gone for Lance Stroll. And I've gone for him because I think the midfield is too tight this year to say the positions. I think he'll be separate. I think he'll have the same points as who I'm going to say will be P12. Lance Stroll, he'll have form, then he'll lose it. And that's what I think is going to happen. P12, I think it's going to be Esteban Ocon. I think he's going to be held back by Fernando Alonso and the political factor in the Alpine team. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Fernando Esteban. I think there'll be political factors which are involved, which kind of ruin it for them. P11, I did put Sergio Perez down, but I am going to change that, and I'm going to say P11 will be Carlos Sainz. I think Carlos will struggle to get used to the Ferrari, and by the time he's used to the Ferrari, it'll be late in the season. It's a learning curve to get used to the team from Maranello. P9, I'm going to say Lando Norris. I think him and Carlos will have a good battle, but it's going to be very, very tight. I shouldn't say P9 because it was P10, but Lando is going to have a very good tight battle with his old teammate. And it's going to be interesting to see how the McLaren adapts to the Mercedes powered engine, I just should say. It's going to be really, really interesting. P9, I'm going to say Pierre Gasly. Pierre will continue improving, and maybe will get a shot at Red Bull seat at one point again. Or maybe he'll go to Alpine. But Pierre will once again improve. I think he'll be in the podium at least twice this year and prove his worth in Formula 1 once again. And obviously he is the team leader. Red Bull, he's won the battle between him and Albon. Red Bull prefer Gasly over Albon, and that is without a doubt. P8 is going to be the two-time world champion in Fernando Alonso. He's only going to be there because he's going to obviously be number one status and have an overall everything at Alpine. So yeah, that's why he's P7. I think he might get a podium. First podium since 2014 I think he'll get. But it'll be quite tight to say so. P7 is going to be Daniel Ricciardo. As I said, the midfield battle is going to be very, very tight. Is why I'm saying Daniel Ricciardo will be P7. P6 is going to be another world champion in Sebastian Vettel, and he will have to get used to his new Aston Martin with the Mercedes power. He'll be winning races without a doubt this year, and I've got to agree with that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Position 5, I am going to say it will be Charles Leclerc. Yep, Leclerc will be one of the best drivers. I think he'll be best of the rest this year, without a doubt. And obviously he's proven what he has, but he just didn't have the race pace last year. Hopefully Ferrari have fixed that, and so the young Monegas can show all his skill and talent, which he has already proven. P4, I'm going to say Sergio Perez. Yes, I made this prediction prior to this being announced, and we all thought after that Albon was going to get that seat without a doubt. But things have changed. He's a Grand Prix winner. I think he'll be really good a teammate with Verstappen. I think he'll be with the he will have more of a role with the Mercedes, battling with the Mercedes, than Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly ever did. P3, I'm going to say Valtteri Bottas. I'm going to say Valtteri will start losing his mojo this year. I'm going to say he'll still be involved in championship type fight, but it won't be enough. And obviously he's demonstrated what he's got, but he's made a lot of rookie mistakes. And obviously when George Russell famously overtook him in the Sakhir Grand Prix, it's only time before Russell takes that place. But Bottas is, or even Lewis Hamilton's. P2, I'm going to say Max Verstappen. I'm going to say he will be ahead of Bottas by a slender margin. Not a big margin, but a small margin. So it's going to be interesting. This year I think Red Bull will be closer to Mercedes. And yeah, it'll be interesting, but I think Mercedes will have the upper edge. And position 1, I think Lewis Hamilton will win his last Formula 1 World title. I think this year will be Lewis's last year. I do not see him. I've had this feeling that he will not continue for a long time, and that's how it is. So I don't think I'll be doing a proper video on this in another point on my YouTube channel. But overall, this is the end of this episode. This is episode 1 based on F1. Thank you for watching. If you are new around here, please follow us and like us on here on Spotify, on all podcast providers. Subscribe to us on any podcast providers, and it'll be much appreciated. Yeah, and thank you, and hope you enjoyed this. My name's Mistry. This was So What? BMGPS podcast. Bye bye.